Hi there, everybody. My name is Kate, and welcome to my channel, Trenergy Awakens Naturally. So I made a video previously about trust, and I wanted to bring up a story, an illustration of what trust is and how it can be built in some situations where there's a great deal of need for stretching the boundaries of, safety. And this is about physical safety, but it tapped my emotional safety all the way down to my pelvis. I mean, it just rocked me all the way down to my core. Oh, I feel very vulnerable with this. I work with horses, okay? And the horses are great. However, they come with their own bags of garbage with what's been done to them before I ever meet them. Just like people, they have stories, they have history, and they have stuff that makes them, have some challenging behaviors sometimes and have bad attitudes towards humans and to investigate their world in ways that are not acceptable, And so there's a horse that I work with who has problems. I'm not sure exactly what his issue is. No idea. He didn't have a whole lot of human interaction, and he was left alone to kind of roam around on 35 acres of a property that, people weren't really interacting with him. They were letting him be the steed of the place and do his own thing. And so he really, I think most of it is just he's young, and socially he really doesn't know about the human element a whole lot because he hasn't had to work within that structure a whole lot, Yeah, he's just awkward. And so he investigates, though, in a way that is unsafe. He investigates people with his mouth, and sometimes it's not just the mouthing with the lips, which is enough. Some people really, they don't want that at all. They will, not allow their horse to do that at all. Well, this guy, one of his problems is that he mouths and then he'll actually put teeth in there as well. He invests teeth as well. And he's not understanding the correlation, or he wasn't when I first met him. He wasn't understanding the correlation of why I jumped and, flicked him in the face immediately with, what the hell was that? Did you really just put your mouth right there and, start to bring teeth? And it's only because I saw him kind of spinning into something. I went, what is this? To pull back and look at, why am I, my instinct is run, force, run. And this isn't 222. It's not appropriate for me to do that, but what is that? And I turned around and I happened to kind of see him coming so I could, pull back a bit. However, smacking him or giving him a flick of, immediate sharp, no, absolutely not contact with his face. The muzzle's a sensitive area. And so the place where he's having investigatory issues is the exact same place that I thumped. And I immediately went into an old pattern of feeling bad that, oh no, I reacted and I, smacked, and, that's not the most therapeutic thing to do. And blah, blah, blah. I went into a whole spiral with myself and had to kind of stand there, and he was stunned, I was stunned. And, it was a matter of, okay, let that ride, because what's happened, he's made, his lip contact and you've smacked him, thumped him, and that's already happened. Those two things have already taken place, and you're both a little shaken with this because he wasn't expecting for that to be, something that I was going to react on. I guess he was brand new to the farm, and there was a history of him doing that. I just did not know that, and he was brand new to me. So the people that knew him before he came to the farm where I met him, they knew that about him already. However, they weren't there. And so horses are just like people. They will push the boundaries wherever they can. Whether it's an innocent investigation or not, they'll investigate the way that they're allowed to, and they'll push boundaries just like little children, just like any other creature, just like grown adults that have no boundaries that are being enforced or that they choose to respect. And so he was just startled, like, what's your problem? And I stood with him for a few minutes, and we started working immediately with the heart connection of, hold on a second. What's his story? At the time, I didn't know. All I know is he's got a mouth that investigates in a way that isn't safe for me, and I cannot allow that. I will not allow that to be something that's going to work for me, to not at least school this and work on a new relationship about how we're going to speak to one another with that mouth. That I don't do mouth communication without understanding all of the ramifications of how that's going to work, because a horse, kind of just tickling with the lips is one thing. However, one that's actually attempting to nip or bite, that's a completely different thing. And because it's the first time it happened, 444, I wasn't sure. And I, using my all of a sudden rant reaction of what the hell, that's not a good state of how I, felt about it for real, how much danger I was actually in. That's not a good relationship because it startled the shit right out of me, and I had a pretty loud, response. So I'm going to need to take that a second, and that's what I did. Was I decided, okay, we're going to take this right now because it's fresh and we're here right now. That he's not stupid. He understands we're at a crucial moment of what exactly was that and how we're going to work with it. In the past, he had a lot of what the hell was that? And apparently the interaction didn't go well with the humans prior to the ones that started working with him to rescue him from his previous farm. That person didn't have him his whole life. So, this has been a behavioral issue kind of just left to fester. And the interaction with humans hadn't gone well, right? And so he's got an attitude, and he's young, and he's on his own with absolutely zero guidance. He's going to need to understand that, oh, you live this life now. And I didn't create that scenario. I don't, have any decision-making power over that scenario. However, I'm here, you're here, and this is my job with you, that I am working with you. Then we're going to need to have a very fresh understanding and come with a fresh mind about how we're going to do life with one another when we do. So that mouth thing, that won't work. And so I kind of thought about it and worked with him and started touching, the sides of his muzzle and just say, is this a sensitivity thing? Is it a pain thing in the mouth? Assuming that he's not just a jerk. I like to, let's get the other stuff out of the way. Is there something in his mouth that could be, questionable? Is there an injury? Is there something? Is there an itchy spot? Is it just that he likes that? Is he investigating? All of those things that open up the door, a panoramic view wide, rather than landing on, he's just a jerk. He's a behavioral issue. He's, a behavioral issue. He has a behavioral issue that makes him seem like a jerk, and it's rooted in something. It's not random. None of these things are random. No behavior of any animal, including and especially human beings, is random. It is a causal relationship. It's a matter of chase it all the way back and find out what it is. Well, in his case, I don't need to know. The cause is that you've caused an interruption in our relationship with a safety issue that I might get seriously hurt and clients might get hurt. That's far back in the causal relationship as we need to go right now. However, knowing that that comes from something else, let's see how we can dance with this, get it manageable until I can do some more investigation and find out what would be perhaps a better tailor-made way to mitigate this problem. Because if it's a behavioral issue based in abuse, that might take one track, whereas this is just an ignorance of how we investigate, that might take another track. But I decided, well, there's only a few different things here, I might as well give it a whirl. So I allowed him to understand. Took him the first day that we worked together. He kept coming back and he brought his mouth, and the minute that he opened it up, just flicked him and said, nope, not that, absolutely not that. And then I put my finger in his muzzle whenever he was coming near me. Those are very small gestures that, no, and kindly saying it and pushing his nose back of, no, not with your teeth, because you're not guaranteeing me the safety that you're offering me is not the standard that I'm willing to accept. Back up. And when he got a little frustrated and wanted to kind of come in and be a bully, the quiet bully moves forward that, no, I didn't say that. Then we're going to need something a little more severe where, poke him in the chest a bit and say, back up, because that's the cue for him to go, excuse me, I'm going to run this because the dynamic is that I'm in charge of this situation. That's what's happening here, and I need you to be clear on who I am to you right now. And that any other time, other times that is not who I am to you. But right now, we just stepped up into a more authoritative role with you. That's what this is. Have you remembered, what's going on here? Not as a point of power and abuse and pain. That's what he is used to, more than likely, or at least he's got a good memory of that, because he flinches like, yeah, I remember this drill. And that's fine, because we can work with that. However, the bottom line is that the goal is the same, is that we're working on a safety issue, a behavioral issue that's rooted in a million different things perhaps, and it doesn't matter. It's treated the same. It's dealt with the same, and it is rehabilitated the same in my world, that I'm going to assume the best about this animal, this person, this whatever, I'm going to assume the best, that this is the best information you have, that this is a good way to move this, Okay, well, out of all the horse behaviors that are really obnoxious, that's one that that we can handle this. This is good. We got this. It's cool. I can do this. But the most subtle gestures, he didn't like having his nose poked. Some horses, they don't care. They just let me, let their face run right into my finger. He didn't like that. So that was highly successful. I could just put my finger in. No. Just because you're wishing to investigate me now doesn't mean until I know that your teeth are good, and you're understanding how your mouth is going to look as it gets close to me. But before it was over with, it took about 3 weeks or so of going back and forth and doing this, and just increasing my tolerance level with what he was going to do. And the last time I saw him a few days ago, I sat down on the ground right in front of him and sat down and put my head down, and he was investigating my head, which I got to tell you, it did creep me out. It did, really tap my reserves. However, I knew inside of me that he understands, he knows the relationship, and he knows what the parameters are. If he chooses to be a whole dill hole here, that would be a game changer for your relationship of how quickly you're going to get up off the ground and start doing some backing up and some other, reminder calls, not in hostility, just to say, nope, that was an egregious step over the line, and absolutely not. However, to reestablish the line that you've forgotten where you were, that just because I sat down and, we changed the dynamic, that I'm allowing you even more, room to investigate more freely. The standard is the same, that you can't come at me with those teeth. You can't come at me in an unsafe way. And that animal, after a month or so, a couple weeks, maybe a total of a month, I don't know, many times of doing this on the slow roll, sitting down and allowing him, even though it was my discomfort with that, trusting him to do that, it was the most beautiful thing. I wish we'd had it on video, because he came and he put his head ever so gently, ever so softly, because he understands I'm investigating you with soft hands. When he could tolerate that from me, I'm investigating you with fingers. You investigate with mouth. That's okay, and it could be safe, and it is safe if we both feel safe in this, and we truly can trust one another that we're going to back off and move out of that space with great respect when that trust starts to feel shaky, and not get butthurt, not get, take it personally, that why doesn't this horse like me? Or why is he doing this to me? He's reacting and responding with a nervous system the same as I am. And I could have been easily triggered into a space of, really popping off strangely if he had come and done anything except exactly what he did, which was honor the fact that I'm willing to open myself up and sit here on the ground in front of you with reasonable belief. That wasn't on the fly, just ridiculous. Reasonable belief based on where we had come from and where we currently were and are. We made one step more that's even more trusting, so that he can trust me in other situations as well, and I can trust him. Just the two of us having that alliance makes it so much easier that when we have someone there, a client, a person that he doesn't know, that I can reassure him, I can be his battle buddy, I can be his friend and his pal and his ally, and make sure that he understands that, you and I, we're good. However, if we thwarted that relationship, or it was destroyed based on teeth flying, when I first met him, I would never talk to him. I'd never mess with him. I would, try to do my work in a way that wouldn't include him. And he's one of the best healers that we have in the inventory. He's one of the most solid. All of these horses are profound. However, he has great gifts, and I would have never met them if I let his weird bullyish behavior, as it can be a point of just trying to control, not just me, everybody. That's kind of his style, but he's learning that, I don't have to fight for my position. I don't have to find a way to, bully you to get this to be a safe experience for both of us. Cool. And to understand that you need safety too, Kate. Yes, I do. And here's how we're going to do that is I'm going to be very careful and safe with you and allow you to let me know what those boundaries are. And I'm going to let you know where I'm feeling a little weird about, your head is right here and I'm on the ground, that I kind of sunk down a bit just naturally. And I felt him ease up a bit to, she's contracting, then I'm going to give her some some expansion, that I could go, oh, okay, he's really not slow rolling into his, slow gentleman stalker role. He's really just investigating with the softness. That was an elongation of a moment of just real beauty and purity that I find so fascinating that horses are able to share with us. Humans, we can share it too. It's just when we get busy in conversation, we kind of mess that up. And horses communicate in a different language that they could care less about the words I'm using. So anyway, I hope that's helpful to you in some way, and I hope you enjoy your day no matter what part of the day you're in. And remember to get within your skin, you beautiful soul, and get within, because your divine is absolutely fine. Take care, and I'll see you again next time. Mwah! Bye.